So what happens if you get a mid cut? So it's been cut off at the base, and then also the tip has been cut off, and you get it in the mail or something. First off, which way do you plant it? How do you know which way's up? So if you can see, there's lines above the areole, like a V. There's a V, there's another V down there, and you can kind of see it on those. So that's the biggest indication. The V is always above the areole. And also the areole will sometimes point upwards. Not all the time, but sometimes, sorry, most of the time they will point upwards like that. And so that way, this is upright. Then, next thing I would do is, that's not roots, by the way, that's just the stem, but you just, I would place some, well, doesn't really matter where you put it, as long as it's got some sort of soil or some sort of rocks or something to go onto. So I'll just leave it like that. So it's not going to rot here because the soil's not all up to here. It's not getting water up to here. It can just detect that there's soil or moistures below here. So over, depending on the season, but over 2 weeks to 2 months maybe, I don't know, you'll get roots coming out of there. Some will grow roots faster than others. Some will grow quite slow. But yeah, that's it. You can leave it like that. You can put it even just on concrete like that. You can sit it in a bed if you can. Whoops. But I would just leave it like that. And, you know, every couple of weeks, just come over, lift it up, look at the bottom. If you see any roots poking out, then I would then plant it. Now, just to demonstrate, this obviously does not have any roots. I would, once it does have roots, I would place it in about that much for stability. I would then move all this soil back over. It's not the best over there. I'd probably fill in with more soil, but from this side, that's pretty much how I do it. And now that it's got all the soil around it, the roots will grow a bit faster. The roots can grow into the soil and start taking up nutrients. So yeah. Once your mid cut has rooted, now here's a piece. That is a root there, just on the right side. It's grown out, sort of died off a bit, but it's still pushing out. So that's an indication of one small root. Then we've got this one here. There's a root there. You can see it. Another one there. And another one just there. That one. And I've just been having these placed like that. This one's rooted. This one's not. This one is. Yeah. So once they're rooted, they're in your pot, what happens next? Well, then they look like this. Just because it's a mid doesn't mean it's not going to look good in the future. You don't even realize that this was a mid cut, because every time you walk past it, it's just two heads. Sometimes they won't put out 2 pups. Maybe it's 1, maybe it's 3, maybe it's 4, maybe it's 5. But just because it's a mid and they don't have such a big root system doesn't mean they can't get big. They start off as small pups, and as time gets on, they will get to the same size, if not thicker, than the original mid cut. Here's another example of a mid cut, and it just pops off. That's it. And now it just looks like a normal stand. Another one, tall as, and that was mid-cut. And it's kind of just growing into a single column now. Here's another good example. It's swollen up so much. There's the vascular rings, that's from the center of this guy. And this pup would have just came out of here, and over time, a lot of the nutrients are going to this guy, and it's just swelling up and getting bigger. And so you can see in there. And that is really healthy. It's swelling up. And who knows, in a few years, all of this may be pushed to the side, and it just looks like it's one trunk. So mids, I would prefer a mid over a tip. Now, depending on the tip size, this is a very, very exaggerated example, but these were tips, and you can sort of see the thickness at the base here. I never really looked after these. These were excess tip cuts that I didn't want, and I just threw them in a pot. But you can see, because they don't have the amount of nutrients that a normal plant would, when it starts growing again, the tips are etiolated. And it takes them quite a while to get back to the same thickness. And so almost every single time you get a tip, and it's a cutting of a tip, no roots, it's going to etiolate. It's going to do this. This is obviously under some vines, so it's doesn't get that much light. But regardless of what position you have it in, you're going to get some etiolation. See now, the bigger you get it, the less chance of etiolation. This one here, I cut off from there. I cannot remember why I cut it, but I just did. So you can see cut mark there. 2 pups have replaced what was there, and then I placed this one. So I think it was about there when I placed it there. And it's a fair size of a cutting. And once it started growing again, which is where the blue starts, there really isn't much etiolation at all. I don't think it is as thick as the cutting, but that just goes to show the bigger the cutting, the more nutrients is in the cutting, and the less chance that it will etiolate. It could root a lot quicker, so the bigger the cutting, the faster it will root, and the faster it will grow, and the thicker it will be. And the smaller the tip cutting, the slower it will root, and the more chance it's going to etiolate. Another example of a tip cut. Is about there or something, rooted, put in a pot, and that's what comes out now, etiolated. Same as this guy. This guy was about here, and it's etiolated since. It is not too bad, but still, I think I would rather a mid. Here's another good example of a mid cut. I would much prefer that over a tip cut that etiolates like this guy. That's where he first started, etiolated a bit. Still going quite strong. And you've got other ones like this, Sam's 02, which is a great clone, beautiful. And I've seen pictures, and I know it's thicker than this. I know they get quite chunky. But I think it's because this was a tip cut. You can see how thick it was there, and it's just never really recovered. It has started getting thicker here. But yeah. Now here's a really good example with some of these bigger species not to get tip cuts, because I've had this for more than 3 years, and for like the first year and maybe 2 years it hadn't moved from this spot. All of this has come in the last year. So it's super etiolated, and it's not going to get to this thickness for quite a long time. And it's just been a pain and a hassle. I would have rathered maybe just pay a bit extra to get it bigger, or just wait longer to get a bigger piece maybe. I don't know. Or just get a mid-cut and wouldn't have had this specific issue. So if you're wondering whether to get a tip cut or a mid cut, I would recommend the mid cut. It just all over, it just seems a lot better than a tip cut.